Pastor Ed with Daily Devotions, my 5 for 5 Daily Devotions for Friday, November the 25th, 2022, the day after Thanksgiving. Hopefully you have an extra day to relax and rest up from all the, imagine, eating that you did yesterday. We're continuing to look at that passage in Luke 12 that culminates with the well-known, but like I've pointed out, it never appears in our Sunday lectionary, but that verse that says, "From everyone to whom much has been given, much will be required. And from the one to whom much has been entrusted, even more will be demanded." Martin Wiles writes, if there's one message, an important message that we need to hear today, it's responsibility. We're raising a generation, he believes, that's taught to believe that we can escape responsibility for our actions. One of the Andy Griffith episodes begins with Andy and Barney finding one of the farmers in town on the side of the road with the produce from his truck strewn all over the place. And as they stop to help him clean up the mess, they begin to question him about what had happened. And he tells them was sideswiped by a young fellow driving a fancy convertible. Well, as they proceed down the road, they come upon this young man. And when Andy begins to question him and ask for his license, the young man makes it quite evident that he feels that he is privileged. His father's some bigwheel in the state, apparently, and he can have just about anything he wants, including, as he says to Andy, that junior G-Man badge that you're wearing. Well, these threats naturally don't deter Andy from carrying out his responsibility of arresting the young man and detaining him for a couple of days until his hearing. Well, as soon as the man arrives at the jail, he uses his one phone call to call his father. He doesn't reach him, but he tells his father's secretary to find his dad's attorney to come and get him out of this fix. Well, in the meantime, Andy takes him fishing and on to his home for Sunday dinner. And after dinner, Andy and Opie are sitting on the front porch while Aunt Bee and Barney are preparing to fix homemade ice cream. And Opie says that he had something to tell Andy, something he hopes would not make Andy mad. He tells of how he had accidentally broken a window on the back porch of one of the town residents. And Andy responds to the situation, well, promise me you won't get mad, but you're not going to get an allowance until that window is paid for. Well, Opie agrees, and he makes his way to help with the ice cream. But the young fellow who's been listening in on all this tells Andy that he thinks that he was quite hard on Opie. He said he should have bailed him out. Andy, of course, disagrees. He says if he bails him out now, before long it'll be something bigger and he'll have to bail him out again. He says that Opie has to learn to stand on his own two legs now. And you see, it was a wonderful lesson in that for the young man, because the father, of course, had made it a habit of bailing him out of situations, and so he had not learned responsibility. Well, as the episode ends, the attorney, the young man's father, arrives. He tries to pay Andy off. Andy refuses and says that he'll have to remain in jail until the trial. It's then that the attorney brings in the farmer, who in turn tells Andy that the wreck was his fault. It seems that the attorney promised him a new truck if he would just lie so that the charges would be dropped. As the young man watches this scene unfold, it finally dawns on him that he had never learned to take responsibility for his actions. He chooses on this first occasion to remain in jail so that he might learn to take responsibility. Well, as Wiles points out, according to the Bible, our rights are matched with responsibilities. The gifts and the opportunities are matched. Opportunities matched with obligations, and our privileges are matched with duties. He says, like the speed limit, we're responsible for obeying what we know, whether we know rather what it is or not. Reminds me of when I came back to New Jersey to do some taxes a few years ago, after being living out of state for a while, and I was just got the taxes done, and I was on the cell phone talking to Jeanette, my wife, and passed by a police officer up in Madison, and police officer pulled me over and explained that I explained that I didn't know that in Ohio where I lived, it was okay to talk on a cell phone, in Pennsylvania apparently as well. And he said that, I'll never forget, he said, ignorance of the law is no excuse. And so we're responsible for obeying, whether we know what it is or not, talking here about the speed limit. Wiles goes on to say, it's a given that not all individuals or churches have the same responsibility. We're not responsible for the opportunities that we do not have, but must give an account to God concerning our obedience to the opportunities that we have had. And if we always play it safe, thinking of all the reasons or excuses why we can't or should not grab an opportunity, it will likely be gone. Well, John Rockefeller was one of our nation's first billionaires and gave away more than $550 million during his lifetime. But he was generous from a very young age and began to teach his family that what they had, they needed to use to serve others. David Rockefeller's son said that when he was 7, he received an allowance of 50 cents a week. He was taught to save 5 cents and contribute 5 cents to charity. His father's credo was, every right implies a responsibility, every opportunity an obligation, every possession a duty. And so Wiles asked the question, how are you fulfilling your responsibilities today concerning your opportunities and abilities and resources and knowledge? To whom much has been given, much will be required. Something to think about. Take care. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.